Hey friends, I think I've got this figured out. Very excited. I am just going to get on my Facebook page. We are going to be kicking off day 2 of the Success Launchpad mini course. And I'm so excited to have all of you. And you got a couple minutes before we go live. I'm live already before we get started. You can tell I've been at the, my brain is fried. Okay, so we're going to talk about the best lighting techniques for newborn photographers, lesson 2 of the boot camp. So this is the lighting formula that changes everything. This is what I use for every session and like inside the studio. And if I'm watching or if I am photographing with natural light, I'm always looking for these techniques, okay? Oh, you're in Toronto or you're near Toronto. Awesome. I'm actually in Edmonton, so fellow Canadian. So I just want to mention, everyone stick to the end if you can, and you will benefit from some gifts for each day. And you do have to participate though in order to get the gifts. I'm doing it different this year. You have to participate in order to get the freebies, and they're pretty fantastic. So if you haven't got the freebie from yesterday, make sure that you watch the replay and do the homework because you will still get the freebie. Okay, so welcome back to day 2 of the Success Launchpad mini course. I am so excited to see you here again. Before we dive into today's into today's game-changing content, I have to ask, how many of you did that burnout reality check yesterday? So anybody that's watching, did you have a chance to do it? Did you write your numbers down and just see where you are at and how much you're making? How many of you were shocked by what you discovered about your hourly rate? It's mind-blowing. So if you're feeling a little uncomfortable right now, that's perfect. That discomfort is your wake-up call. And today we're going to start fixing it with something that will give you immediate results, which is mastering your lighting. The lighting frustration is real. So let me guess what happens with your lighting right now. Sometimes your photos look amazing, the light is soft, the baby glows, everything is perfect. But other times, the lighting is harsh, there's weird shadows, and you can't figure out what went wrong. Does that happen to any of you? You're using the same setup, the same settings, but getting completely different results. Sound familiar? You're not crazy, but you're not bad at this. You just don't know what to look for. So it's a really common problem with photographers, especially newborn photographers. And you know what? It's crazy because sometimes I even see photographers that have been doing this for 10 years and they still make crazy mistakes when it comes to newborns. And I think the reason why is because newborns are not in the typical position that a person is when they're standing up. A newborn is usually to the side or laying down or back on their back. And so those common mistakes happen because photographers aren't used to looking at the lighting patterns on infants. So we're going to have a lighting breakdown. So I want to see some emojis in the chat. If it's sunny where you live, put a sunshine emoji. If it is raining, put like some water teardrops or rain clouds. And I want to see what type of weather you're dealing with. Right now we have some beautiful weather and it is rare for where I live. So I'm very happy. So we're going to talk about 3 key elements for lighting. First, we're going to talk about light direction, where your light is coming from. Second is light quality, how soft or hard that light is. And third, light control, how you manage shadows and fill. The sun is already set for you guys? Oh, wow. Yeah, because you're on the East Coast. Yeah. I guess the sun is going down here too. So, light direction, light quality, light control. Let's get into it. Most photographers focus on just one of these and wonder why their results are inconsistent. Today, I'm going to show you how all 3 work together in my simple lighting strategy. This is my simple lighting strategy. After 13 years and hundreds of sessions, it works every single time, regardless of your studio space or equipment budget. So this is a visual. It all works together: direction, control, and quality. So direction would be like the angle of the lighting towards the baby and how close the light is. So the distance, how close the light is in relation to the baby's face. Because distance, if it's really far, can create really harsh shadows. And if it's really close, it's softer. Light power, if you have a very strong light source, so that can even refer to natural light. If you're putting a baby in direct light, like sun rays, that's very strong, it's too strong. But if you take them out of those sun rays or those light rays, it's going to be soft and diffused and pretty, right? And same with your studio light. If you have a really strong studio light and you're not able to lower the power of that light, then it's going to be too harsh on the baby. So you have to think about what type of light source you're using, whether it's natural light or whether it is studio light, and make sure that you have control over your situation. And then we're going to talk about white balance and exposure. So you want to remember all of these things. So this is the checklist. The main light is at 45 degrees to your subject and one light source, okay? The light source is 2 to 3 feet away from the baby, and it's the lowest power on the strobe. You're using Kelvin or custom white balance specific to your camera body. So the Kelvin is going to be different depending on what camera body you have and what light you're using, okay? And if you are using custom white balance, then it's just going to be the same to set your custom white balance with every camera, any camera, okay? And then you're going to check your histogram to make sure that you're not overexposing or underexposing, okay? So those are really all it boils down to. That's it. It's simple, but it's incredibly effective when you understand the why behind each element. So when you have the baby in the position, in the prop or on the beanbag or whatever, when the light is flowing at a 45-degree angle, it's creating the proper lighting patterns on the face, and the distance is creating soft lighting. So remember that 45-degree angle and the light is close to the baby. And I have a video that I'm going to show you guys. So just hang in there. So we're really going to get into it. So again, the distance creates soft lighting. Now, if you have harsh shadows, a bonus is to add fill light with a white cardboard, like foam board or a reflector. So the reflector would go on the shadow side if you are having too much dark shadows on the baby. But this can actually reverse if you are getting not enough shadows, then you can use a black reflector to add in more depth on the shadow side. So think about it that way. There's definitely ways to use it in the reverse as well. There ain't no light on that baby's skin. So if you are planning, this is just a bonus, but we're going to watch more. So on doing a pose like this, my reflector, you could use anything white that you have. I could use those white boxes. I could use a white wall. If I had one that was mobile, you could use a white cardboard box. Notice by just adding in some white reflection, how nicely that adds in some fill light. So yeah, it's not ideal, but if you were getting a close-up and you wanted the baby's face somehow like that, adding the fill light will definitely help you out. And that can go for any type of situation. So again, now we're going to talk about the control. You need to lower the power of your light. And then we're talking about the last aspect, which is the settings in your camera, making sure that you have a beautiful white balance and proper exposure. When you are setting everything up, you want to make sure that your histogram is reading properly. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about that. Oh no, Tiffany, if you have control, that is another conversation, but I'll just answer you real quick. I would have all my walls white because in reality, like unless your studio is all windows, believe it or not, like my studio is all white walls and you go 4 or 5 feet back and you're not getting any natural light into those pictures. So you don't have to worry. Look at how close that I had the baby to the window. So, no, I would have all white windows or all white walls, sorry, so that you don't have any type of color casting in your pictures. And then I would just have V flats or black reflectors that are portable so that you can add them in where you need them. Just to answer your question. Oh, wait, I didn't finish talking about this. Okay, so with the histogram and your exposure, how you can tell if you are blowing out your pixels or not is when the histogram goes all the way up the right side. See how in this little picture here, it shows that it's not touching this side of the histogram or of the line here. There's a little gap. That's perfect. That's a beautiful exposed image. And the problem when you're using a studio light is that if you don't have an external light meter to set the light settings perfectly in your camera, which most of us don't, you have to read your histogram. So that's going to be the way that you're going to know, okay, do I lower my ISO? Do I lower the power of my light? Do I bring my f-stop up to f4 if I don't have that ability to lower the power on my light? If I've gone as low as I possibly can with my ISO, then I'm going to have to bring my f-stop up to a higher f-stop. So it's different if you're using natural light because then you can light meter for your actual situation. And you're going to point at the skin of the person you're photographing to get a proper light meter. You're not going to point your camera at a white wall and then try and get the correct light metering because it's not going to work. So that's just something to think about when you are setting up your settings and your light. This just gives you a little visual for whatever situation that you are in with a newborn. Again, the light needs to be at the 45-degree angle, flowing across the face. The baby needs to be within 2 to 3 feet of that light unit. So right here is the power of the light. Center to the baby, 2 to 3 feet distance. Beautiful, nice and soft lighting. So that can apply to a baby in a prop. It can apply to parents holding infants. It can apply to pretty much everything you're photographing. Just remember those setups. So let's break this down. The 45-degree angle for your main light is magic because it creates beautiful dimension on the baby's face. It avoids harsh shadows under the nose and chin. It gives you that gorgeous, soft wraparound light. And it works whether baby is on their back, side, or in a pose. Now let's watch some recordings that I've made for you.
Hey everyone, welcome to day 2 of the Success Launchpad Bootcamp, day number 2. I said that twice. Anyways, I'm going to show you a few really cool tricks with lighting, and whether you are using a studio light, continuous light, or window light, all of this will apply to you, okay? So let's get started. Hey everyone. Step 1, shut off the overhead lighting. So you can see no lighting back there, but if you look up, now you can see I've got some overhead lighting going on. So we don't want to have funky white balance. We want to block off that block off that light, ambient light from the light bulbs. And I'm going to do that right now. Okay, great. Now my camera is going to have a chance to get an accurate white balance, whether I'm going to be using window light or if I'm going to be using studio light. And there's 2 different options that you can do for white balance. Well, there's so many options, but I'm going to show you 2. So first is custom white balance, okay? And the second is using Kelvin. We're never going to have it on auto, and we're never going to have it on all these different white balances depending on the scene because we want to have consistency with our work. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. Okay, so the second would be exposure. Now, when we think about photographing newborns, I know there's a lot of mixed information in the industry, and I will just go from personal experience. Do not underexpose your images. What is the point? There is no point, okay?
I'm very direct, sorry.
So the second to that rule is if you're using LED walls, but I have one over here. We're not going to talk about LED walls today. Today we're going to talk about window lighting or strobe lighting. Today we're going to talk about window. So when you're looking at exposing, you want to get as close to perfect exposure as possible. And the reason why is because you're not going to lose any pixels by overexposing and then blowing them out. And then you're not going to have muddy skin tones and results by really underexposing. Definitely aim to stick to the 0 within your light meter and try and get it spot on. Okay. Now there are a whole bunch of other additional tricks to doing this, and that's in my lighting tutorial that you can grab. I will post a link if anybody wants to grab it, but I'm just going to show you a couple quick tips about lighting your newborns with a window.
Okay, so I just want to point out one light source, okay? Don't use auto for your white balance. You're going to want to use Kelvin or custom white balance. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to my next slide.
So when you're looking at exposing, you want to get as close to
Try it
perfect
again.
exposure as possible. And the reason why is because you're not going to lose any pixels by overexposing and then blowing them out. And then you're not going to have muddy skin tones and results by really underexposing. Definitely aim to stick to the 0 within your light meter and try and get it spot on. Okay. Now there are a whole bunch of other additional tricks to doing this, and that's in my lighting tutorial that you can grab. I will post a link if anybody wants to grab it, but I'm just going to show you a couple quick tips about lighting your newborns with a window. So I am just going to show you this little setup that I have right here, taking advantage of the door, okay, the studio door. So most houses have, if it's a house, they will have a patio door that goes all the way to the ground. So that is actually perfect way to light the newborn. But I just want to show you that you may think, oh, that's beautiful, but no, it's not, because you can see these heavy shadows and this heavy shadow on the brow. So that means that we're getting way too much light here, way too much light right here, and we need to rotate that baby. Okay, suddenly things are getting pretty good because now we have the baby at a 45-degree angle towards the light, and the light is flowing beautifully. We want the light flowing across the face. If what happens is you get too much shadow, then you need to tilt that face up to the ceiling, okay? You wanna make sure that you are getting a little bit of a shadow moon right next to the nostril. And this is very similar to what we call Rembrandt lighting or loop lighting. So it's a beautiful technique that allows the light to wrap around the face and caress every little feature that the baby has. So I'm actually gonna tell you a secret. Lighting is probably the most important part of newborn photography, well, other than safety, because if you have the most beautiful pose, your picture isn't going to be worth anything without good lighting. And that is where you get those creamy skin tones, those beautiful features, the baby's skin, everything is just wrapped in this gorgeous light. But with light, we need shadows. But if you have the wrong shadows, everything is just gonna, it's gonna look terrible.
We're going to avoid these common mistakes because this is what I see in photography all the time. And this is something that is a big no-no.
I'm just gonna show you a couple mistakes that a lot of photographers do when they are using lighting. And this goes for window lighting and strobe lighting. So first one, I'm just gonna show you.
So, mistake number 1, focused on the body position, but not lifting the chin. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a visual.
Chin is tucked. So the lighting is technically in the correct position, but baby is not in the correct position. The body is correct, but the face is not. So what that means is if you have too much stuffing behind the head, you're gonna have to move it, and that will allow you to bring the face up, okay? So be aware that you don't have too much stuffing inside your props, and that will really correct everything. So the second mistake that I see people do is uplighting.
What do you know about uplighting. Can you recognize it in a picture? I'm going to show you a visual.
So they have the light coming from the bum, and now you can see that it's uplit. So what happens is you get this really heavy shadow here. The nostrils get flared with light, and it's just not pretty, is it?
So notice how you can see these really heavy shadowing right above the nostril or above the nose right here. So right here, they're getting really heavy shadowing right across here and on the cheeks. And then the nostrils are flared with that light. So what happens is when I see uplighting, I think to myself, oh, that photographer doesn't know what they're doing. That's like instantly what I think. And it's crazy because I follow probably thousands of photographers, and sometimes I'll see a photographer that's been doing it forever, but not necessarily like their main thing isn't necessarily newborns. Or sometimes I will see newborn photographers that have been specializing in newborn photography and they still uplight. And it just blows my mind because it's like the number one mistake to look for. So when you go into a newborn session, make sure that the light and make sure it's flowing across the face. Okay. Tiffany, I don't know if you have, I think I have to, I don't know if you have always, I don't know that I see that in your work, Tiffany. So let's just recap what uplighting is. Uplighting is when the bum is literally pointing at the light and the light is up the face, going right up the face. Okay. And the proper way to light a newborn is down and across the face. So that's different than backlighting. Backlighting is when the light is behind the baby and you are shooting towards the light. So, what did you think? I've shown you a few really awesome tools to add to your education toolbox, and I'm going to just recap the first one. So, we discussed the Rembrandt loop style lighting for newborns, and the reason why it's such an amazing lighting technique. What happens is it wraps beautiful light around the face and gives you beautiful dimension. So the 45-degree angle for your main light is magic because this is a recap that we just went over. It's gorgeous dimension on the face. You're avoiding harsh shadows under the nose and the chin. It's giving you gorgeous, soft wraparound light. And it works whether baby is on their back, side, or if they're being held by parents, or if they're on a posing table or in a prop. So when we think about distance, you want to have the baby 2 to 3 feet away from the light source. And this isn't random. It's based on the physics of light fall off and the size of most newborn setups. So there is a reason for it. At this distance, your light is close enough to be soft and flattering, but far enough to cover your entire setup evenly. You avoid hot spots and harsh transitions, and you get consistent results every time. Too close and you get harsh light. Too far and you lose that beautiful softness. And then fill light, that's that little secret that you can add in when you need it. So here's where most photographers go wrong. They ignore fill light completely. But fill light is what separates amateur photos from professional ones. Your fill doesn't have to be another expensive light. It can be a simple white reflector, a piece of white foam core, even a white wall if positioned correctly. And again, like I said, if you have a space that is all windows and all light, then add in a black reflector on the shadow side of the baby. So that is what's going to help you out. The key is controlling those shadows to create depth without losing detail. So common lighting mistakes that cost you money. So let me share the 3 lighting mistakes that are costing you bookings and referrals. So mistake number 1, inconsistent results. Clients can count on you or can't count on you for quality. Second is harsh shadows that make babies look unflattering. Third is flat, boring light that doesn't showcase your skill. And so flat lighting is when the baby is the light is completely in front of the face, and probably there's like fill light on the sides too, and there is literally zero shadowing. Like I said, to fix that situation, you would add in a black reflector if you were in a room with all windows and all white walls and all white furniture, and it's like literally all white, and you're like, oh my God, there's no dimension anywhere. That's where you're going to add in a black reflector, because that is going to correct and add that depth that you need, but also really, really play with the angles of your subject and get them to turn and rotate their faces. And that way you're going to have more control over the depth and shadows in the light. Day 2, action step, the lighting test. So set up a simple scene. Even a stuffed animal works for this test. Position your main light at 45 degrees. It doesn't have to be 45 inches away. I meant to put 2 to 3 feet away. Okay. So if you don't have a studio light, use a window. Add your fill light or reflector opposite your main light. And that I want you to do one with and one without. Take 5 shots, adjusting only your fill light intensity. So I want you to start without a fill light, okay? Or not fill light, a reflector. So I don't use 2 lights, I use 1 light when I'm working. So don't think that you need to use 2 lights. And you're gonna have the dark reflector or the white reflector, depending on your situation, depending on how much light you have in your space. And I want you to compare the results. You'll immediately see the difference fill light makes. And then you're gonna save these test shots because you're going to reference them in every future session. And I wanna know, can you spot the difference between ghoul lighting and proper lighting patterns? So I want you to post a picture, take a picture of either a doll or your partner or your friend or your kid. And I want you to take a picture of them with that Rembrandt loop lighting pattern that I showed you in that little video. And how do you create that? You have the light at a 45-degree angle. Make sure that, if it's on the floor, you're doing a prop or whatever, make sure the chin is lifted. If you're photographing a kid or a person, it's a lot easier. Just make sure that they don't have their chin tucked, but they're looking and facing the light and you're angling down. Make sure that they're close to the light source. You don't want to have them too far away because you're going to have harsher shadows. And you also want to make sure that your exposure and your white balance are set correctly. Okay, so those are some things that you can implement with your homework. So what does this mean for your business? When you master consistent lighting, everything changes. Your sessions become more efficient, no more chimping and adjusting constantly. I think I screwed that one up. I didn't mean to write that. But anyways, it's true. Your sessions become more efficient. Your editing becomes faster because you have consistent lighting and consistent editing. Your confidence skyrockets because you know exactly what you'll get every time. Your clients notice the quality difference. Hello, higher prices, right? The better you are, the more you can charge too. So remember that burnout calculation from yesterday? Consistent lighting can cut your editing time in half. So that is immediately improving your hourly rate. So tomorrow on day 3, we're going to dive into posing, specifically angles that let you understand where you've been going wrong or what to look for. So again, your homework for tonight. I want you to do the test shot with a stuffed animal. And so you're going to focus on 45-degree angle, distance 2 to 3 feet, and then you're going to set your white balance and your light metering. You're going to check your histogram if you're using a studio light, and light meter for the 0 if you're using natural light. And then I want you to look at your last 5 newborn sessions and identify which ones had the best lighting. I bet they accidentally followed this formula. So write down one lighting question you want answered tomorrow. I'll address them live. You guys have already wrote down lighting questions, so I am going to be addressing those tomorrow. And I will address some of them right now, but I have to pull them up in a minute. So thank you so much for showing up. And I'm proud of you for showing up consistently. That's exactly the mindset that separates successful photographers from everyone else. Tomorrow, we're going to tackle angles in a way that will revolutionize how you photograph babies. You'll walk away with specific techniques you can use in your very next session. Until then, go test that lighting formula. I can't wait to hear about your results. And see you tomorrow for day 3. It's going to be incredible. And I just wanted to mention that if you do the homework, you have to tag me. Please do the homework, because the only way, remember from yesterday, the only way to benefit is to implement your education. Otherwise, it is only entertainment, right? So hold yourself accountable And tomorrow I will send you guys the lighting PDF that I have that references all the little tips and tricks that I have mentioned today. Thank you for joining me live, and I appreciate you. And I just want to say that I look forward to looking at your homework, and I look forward to your comments and your questions and everything. I really appreciate it that you guys took the time to join me. Oh, yeah, totally turn your lights off. Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why is because it really does mess up with your white balance. So maybe the light, okay, so let me just it just depends how big your room is. So if you have overhead lighting that's like way off and not directly above where you're working, and it's not really in the vicinity of where you're working, then it might be okay. But if it is directly above where you're shooting, that's a problem. It's going to mess up your white balance. Not necessarily the exposure because the flash is fast, right? But the white balance, sometimes it does really get screwed up. So one thing I would recommend is to have a lamp or something in the corner where your parents are sitting and turn your overhead lighting off and make sure that your studio light has a very powerful model lamp. I have all Einsteins, and my Einstein model lamp is very powerful. It's very bright. Yeah. And if you guys are in a studio space like me, what I have is I have taken out the bulbs in all of the overhead lighting that's around where I'm shooting. So basically what I do is I will I'll keep the lights on until I end up shooting in the area where the light is, and then I shut that off. So that my families aren't sitting in like a dark space the entire time. Thank you guys for joining. Tomorrow's going to be all about posing and angles. Hopefully I don't have as many screw ups tomorrow, but I appreciate your time and have a great night, everyone. And I will answer your lighting questions at the beginning of the boot camp tomorrow.